Welcome to Ultimate Playlist. I'm Matt. That's Briggs. And this is a show where we come up with the best 10 songs around a theme to create its Ultimate Playlist, each one of us contributing our top 5. And today our theme is the Ultimate Shoegaze Playlist. Briggs, Shoegaze from... I even forgot about this genre.
Yeah. Oh, how do you forget, man? It's a classic. Kind of a micro genre that was prominence in the early 90s, I guess, is the heyday of shoegaze. So. It's kind of come back. I mean, it's super influential. It wasn't really commercially successful movement. No. I don't think any of the songs that I picked charted in any major way. But yeah, it's a genre of music that was big in the UK and Ireland in the early 90s for the most part. There were some American bands too, but not a whole lot. But super influential to a whole bunch of bands that came afterwards, and just kind of a cool soundscapey sort of thing where like the texture is as important as the melody or anything else.
It really is. Yeah, I would say that this is probably, so this is the, after I started looking at it, I was like, oh man, I know nothing about this genre. I know this is the genre that I know least about of anything that we covered. This is the first time I've had oh shit moments for the show.
Really? Okay, so you missed out on all this stuff back in the day?
Yeah, it wasn't my, I don't come from the Smashing Pumpkins tree, which would have led me backwards into some of the other guys, some of the other bands. And so I know none of these songs. So what's going to happen? I just want, just preparing you is you're going to hear my songs that I choose and you're going to be shaking your head. You're going to be like, what the fuck?
Well, we're going to find out, Matt.
We're going to find out.
Shall we get into it with my number 5?
I mean, there's nothing else to do but to get into it. So go ahead.
Yeah, my number 5 is Slide Away by the Verve.
My short list.
Yeah, it's a good tune. This band actually got popular years later after the shoegaze thing went away. It was a short-lived scene, right? And it got overshadowed in the early 90s by grunge in the US and Britpop in the UK. And the Verve actually kind of reinvented themselves more as like a pop-ish band that had a huge hit with Bittersweet Symphony.
Love that song.
Yeah, it's a good tune. They got in a lot of trouble for that too.
I know.
Sampling the Stones or whatever.
I know. And have you listened to both of them? I found the samples and listened to both. I mean, it's there, but it's it's not an important part of that Stones song. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's some background stuff. And it's really? But yeah, they lost, I think they lost all of the revenue from that song.
Wow. And that album, the album that the Bittersweet Symphony was on, was one of the biggest selling albums in the UK. Crazy huge.
Such a good song. I felt
it is a good song. I like this song too. I think that this is off their first album. A Storm in Heaven is the name, from 1993. It was their debut album. I think this is the second single on it, Slide Away. But yeah, it's got all the elements of shoegaze, kind of washy reverb, guitar textures, kind of dreamy vocals. I guess a lot of times the shoegaze gets confused with dream pop. I mean, all this stuff is just labels. I mean, it's music.
It is, yeah.
But people like labels. But yeah,
people except the people in the genre don't like the labels.
Everyone except the person who's getting labeled likes labels.
Yeah, no,
what I
don't
mean?
like that.
A lot of these shoegaze bands didn't like the term. I mean, the term shoegaze itself was kind of a slam at first. It was people were just staring at their feet while playing. They weren't really compelling performers, but I mean, they were looking at their pedal board or whatever, all their guitar crap on the stage, so they were just kind of staring down the whole time. So they're like, look at these shoegazers,
Yeah, right. It was derogatory, like they're slackers. But that's
exactly.
But actually, the first use was from a British magazine called Sounds, when the reporter went to see a band called Moose at the live show, and the singer was looking down the entire time, but apparently his lyrics were on the
Oh, okay. So it's a combo.
But I think, I mean, if you listen to the music, it definitely evokes that name. So it kind of stuck.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it kind of makes sense too. A lot of these folks would play like really loud and have kind of like the sound wash over you, so they didn't really need to be super dynamic performers. A lot of them were influenced by like Robert Smith of The Cure, who doesn't do a whole lot when he's doing his thing.
Right.
The kind of progenitors of the shoegaze is like Cocteau Twins, Jesus and Mary Chain, The Cure, bands like that. And then these folks put their spin on it. But yeah, an early song from the Verve. It's a cool song. I think it holds up. I think it sounds good. Yeah, I like this song. Definitely a little more poppy than some of the other ones I picked. But
definitely poppier.
You know,
yeah,
those guys went on to great success later on and lost all their money
in the lawsuit. Yeah,
and I think they really hate each other too. I think they've broken up a number of times, tried to get back together, and they're like, which they ultimately did in the 2000s, and they played at some festival or whatever, and then they were like, fuck it, breaking up again. I hate these guys.
Yeah, it's too bad because they're good. They're like, I feel like they had a lot of talent and a big opportunity to, be a lot bigger than they were, and actually do a lot more critical stuff than they did.
Yep. So, I mean, going through something like that thing with the Stones, though, that's a good way to ruin a band and a career. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, good one though. I do I do appreciate them very much, and like I said, love that Bittersweet Symphony song. It's just just a top song. So good.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Okay, good. Oh yeah, man. I'm just I don't even.
I'm psyched to hear your number 5, Matt. I want to see what you picked.
God damn it! It's Rosemary by the Deftones. Really like this song. I don't know a lot about the Deftones. You see, that was the problem. A lot of these bands, I've heard their names before, like the Jesus and Mary Chain, Cocteau Twins, all that. I've heard, or My Bloody Valentine. I've heard them, but Deftones, of course, I've heard of them, but I just don't know any of their music. I just sort of missed all that. But this is a really, really nice song that is really pretty dark and dirgy for a while. But then the end, which is the part that I just played you the last few minutes, it gets to a super pretty soundscape with the major 7 chord and the nice vocals. I really like this song a lot. But yeah, so Rosemary, this is a little bit later. This is 2012.
Yeah.
But like, I just was going for sounds like.
A vibe, right? Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, Deftones for me is like a hard to categorize band because they do a bunch of different things. And they do have that pretty dream or shoegaze kind of pop stuff, and then they also are pretty heavy too at times. I like the Deftones quite a bit, especially their first few albums. I was way into at the time. Didn't really keep up with them, but they definitely have a lot of the shoegaze influence for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So this is from Koi no Yokan, which is their 7th album, which, I mean, they've sold somewhere close to 10 million albums overall, which is pretty good. But this album was maybe 200,000 or something copies. But this was, let's see, this is their 7th album, November 2012, and it's, I mean, they're a bit, people are calling them the Radiohead of metal, and I can understand that. But you're right, they have they kind of span genres, a bit of genres,
right?
A whole bunch of different stuff. But started in 1988 in California with Chino Moreno, Stephen Carpenter. Chino Moreno's the singer. Stephen Carpenter is a very good guitar player. And then sad story with Chi Chang, who's their bass player.
Yeah, that was sad. Yep.
He died right around the time this album was released. He got into a car accident. He was in the passenger seat. And I guess him and his sister were coming back from his brother's memorial service or something. And she hit a car and they flipped 3 times. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt, flew out the car and was like, I mean, he was in a coma. He was in a coma
for a long time, right?
A long time. And they called him partially responsive. Like he could sometimes say a word or two or move a little bit, but he was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital for the rest of his life, and just never, a lot of trauma to the body. And then eventually he had a heart attack, but might have been caused by pneumonia or something. He never got right after. It's super sad.
Really sad. He's a great bass player too. I mean, I used to see Deftones back in the day. Yeah, that was sad. That's too bad. I mean, fortunately, they kept the band going, you know.
Yeah, they did.
But
yeah, but like right after that happened, they had to go on tour, and
yeah,
so they
rough.
needed to find a replacement bass player to sit in while they did their tour, and then yeah, and they kept. I mean, they just kept doing a bunch of fundraising for him too, raising hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to help with his medical care. So they were always connected, but yeah, I mean, they just had to go on. They had to move on as a band. They had to keep playing and supporting themselves. So yeah, sad.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah, but this is a good one. I like this song.
Yeah, I think it fits in. I definitely. I kept my choices are mostly from like the whatever if you want to call it, like the
Early
original
90s
wave
something.
of shoegaze. Yeah, but so many bands have been influenced by the sounds and techniques, and this is one. That's a good one. Not what I was expecting. I'm psyched to hear your other ones. I kind of stuck to the classics. So here's my.
I don't know what the classics are. I don't know.
Right on.
All right, go ahead.
My number 4 is "Rave Down" by Swervedriver.
There you go.
Do you know this band at all? You ever hear them?
Only by today. And so, they were frequently listed as like, top 20, top 10, whatever, shoegaze.
Totally.
So I listened to some of their music today, and
yeah,
it's cool.
I like them. It's cool. They're a little heavier, I think, than the other shoegaze ones. Like a lot of the shoegaze stuff is kind of like loud, but not really heavy. You know what I mean?
Agree. Yeah.
But these guys are a little heavier. They're more on like I'd say like the Dinosaur Jr. end of things.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Who also was like kind of, I guess, shoegaze adjacent, totally not a shoegaze band at all, but loud guitars, crazy sounds and whatever, I'm sure all those people knew each other too back in the day. But yeah, this is Rave Down off of their debut album called Raise. And it's a cool tune. It's got all the elements that I like with shoegaze, lots of guitars, some dreamy stuff, some washy stuff. But yeah, another English band. Most of the original shoegaze bands are from England or Scotland or Ireland for the most part. These guys were around. They did a few albums, and then they had similar sort of thing, record issues, and then the band members weren't feeling it anymore, so they split up in '98. And I think a lot of these guys got kind of swamped by the grunge and the Britpop thing, like as soon as like Oasis and Blur hit in the UK. I mean, Blur is way bigger over there than they were in the US, but huge bands that kind of eliminated some of the shoegaze stuff.
It's crazy how much we've got, like how much effect British bands have had on the history of music. I mean, again, we've just got another genre. We keep talking about these, I think, where we get another genre that was instigated by the Brits.
Yeah. So much rock and roll comes from England and UK. So much, like I think about all the classic mega bands like Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, the Beatles. You know what I mean? They're all English.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think the bands from Britain just kept influencing over and over. I mean, even like glam into the hair metal stuff, the decade before this. And just everything.
It's interesting though. It kind of goes back and forth though. Like you get like Chuck Berry in the US, that goes to the UK, then you get the Beatles, then it comes back, and then you get the Beach Boys, and then back and forth. Even with the glam thing, the glam went, goes hair metal in the US afterwards, just back and forth, which makes sense, But yeah, there's so many of these scenes and styles came from the UK. I think Swervedriver could have been a bigger band. They didn't get any radio play in the US. They went on tour with like Smashing Pumpkins and stuff like that, but they didn't have any media presence here, so no one ever heard of them. I feel like they could have been a bigger band, but so it goes.
Yeah, good song. And I think all right, so let's talk about kind of the lineage a little bit too, because we were just kind of talking about this, but I trace it all the way back to Beach Boys.
Yep.
And like Wall of Sound. right? Like Wall of Sound. So,
a lot of classic pop stuff, like Jesus and Mary Chain loved like the Shangri-Las, like that old stuff, and that kind of cutesy, almost twee pop stuff kind of works its way in.
Yep. But then you got Beach Boys, kind of Brian Eno, Velvet Underground.
Yep.
And then that gets into the 70s where you've got, now I miss it because I don't know. There's a band Faust or Wire. I don't know those, but their connection points to then the Cocteau Twins.
Totally.
And My Bloody Valentine and Jesus and Mary Chain. So I think like this isn't Beatles influenced. This is Beach Boys influenced. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, I would agree with that. That makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good one. And they came up on a bunch of lists that I.
Yeah, they're on all the lists. It is kind of a relatively small scene. There's not all that many bands that were in like the original early 90s scene. But yeah, Swervedriver is one of them. They're pretty good.
All right, great. Shall we move on to my number 4?
Yeah. let's see what you got, Matt.
God damn it, it's Division by Tycho.
Show me what you got.
Yeah. You know this band?
No.
Tycho. I love Tycho very much. There's 2 albums in particular that are just great. It's Awake, hit number 23 actually on the Billboard Hot 2 or album 200, and then Epic, which hit number 78. This is a song called Division off Tycho. Division by off of Epic. And Tycho is this musician named Scott Hansen. He is a super talented guy, kind of does everything himself. He's a guitar player. And when you listen to his music, it is all of his guitar work is absolutely influenced by the shoegaze stuff.
Yeah.
It is huge verbs and lots of delays. He does a lot of layered delays all over the place. And then he just sets that to a more electronic bass. So this album was released in 2013, so it's a little bit later on. 2016 is a little bit later on. But these 2 albums, you listen to these albums and you're like, oh, I see where this came from. Because he'll do, and it's stuff of it's not just quicker stuff, it's slower, layered, textured stuff. And most of it's no lyrics. So this is what I'm counting as my number 4.
Cool. Right on. I don't even think I've ever heard of this artist before. So yeah, I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah, I would highly recommend checking out those 2 albums. They're so good because you don't, it's something that you could work to or do other stuff to because there isn't lyrics that's gonna like kind of break you out of concentration of other stuff. But it's just such a soundscape that he creates, and it's kind of in a similar way to like Sigur Rós. Like I would never, I don't love Sigur Rós, but it gets you into a specific place and like a mood if you listen to it. And yes, there are vocals, but it's kind of maybe he does sing, I guess. But since it's Icelandic, I don't understand him anyway. But it's very like the vocals themselves seem to be under.
It's low in the mix, right?
Than what the other stuff is happening. So yeah,
it's more textural. Like the words aren't the important part; it's the sound of the words. It's the sound important. Of the words.
Yeah, he might.
Sigur Rós is another one that's like, I think so. I mean, a lot of these shoegaze folks did. I mean, Sigur Rós, I think, is heavily influenced by like Cocteau Twins too.
Yeah.
And which is cool. I feel like they're kind of shoegaze adjacent. Sigur Rós.
Yeah. Right. And maybe this is too, but I like the song.
Yeah, it's a cool song. I'd not heard it before.
Nice. Shall we move on to your number 3?
Yeah, let's do it. My number 3 is Souvlaki Space Station by Slowdive.
Some had listed it as number 1 on like the best all-time shoegaze song.
This song itself, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's on the list. I mean, this album, the album's called Souvlaki, from 1993. This is on all the the classic shoegaze album lists. You know, it's definitely one of the pinnacles of the genre. It's a pretty good album, you know, really dreamy. This one is like super dreamy, washy, which I like. They actually worked with Brian Eno for a little while, and they did some sessions. Slowdive did, and then I guess Eno was committed to another project. They wanted him to do the whole album, but he didn't have time to do it. But after that, that kind of opened their eyes to the ambient sort of side of things. And for this song in particular, what's his name there? Neil Halstead, the singer and guitar player, he wrote the song. He said that this song, the Souvlaki Space Station, was influenced by like Aphex Twin, dub music, early drum and bass, that kind of stuff. And there is some of that like hip hoppy element to some of the shoegaze stuff, you know, with the drums. Not always. Like Swervedriver is more of just like a rock band, but this one, you know, has some, like, there's a lot of programming and other extra stuff going on.
When was this from? Because Aphex Twin, I guess Aphex Twin was, I guess that
started in the 80s, right? Yeah. 90. This is 93.
Yeah.
So Aphex Twin was certainly in play at that point. I mean, he's been around since the 80s, right?
Yeah, I think so. That guy, I sometimes I've listened to a bunch of his music, but he is awesome. But I can't. It's hard for me to. So it's hard for me to listen.
Oh, really?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's creepy.
Yeah, he's creepy. Not all of his music is creepy. All of his videos are creepy because he puts his weird face in it.
So creepy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Aphex Twin is cool. Yeah, he's 1988, I think, was when he started. But yeah. Super influential. Aphex Twin, I think, still is, you know, in the basically created all kinds of electronic techniques. And also influenced these Slowdive folks, another English band, dreamy female vocals mixed with some male vocals, lots of guitar wash. You know, this was you know, they were one of the big figures in the shoegaze thing, and then of course they also broke up right after it went away. But I don't know, do you ever hear that band, the Mojave 3?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, that's the rest. Most of the folks from Slowdive reformed as that band. It's kind of like a more folk country kind of vibe than
really
a lot. Yeah,
that's a bit different.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, I guess if you just take away all the reverb, you know, it's kind of you're getting close to there. But yeah, Slowdive's they reunited also later on. A lot of these bands have done that, you know, come back to do the nostalgia thing or whatever. But they did a new album also in 2023. So they're still kicking around. And their new album actually was the first one that like charted to any great degree in overseas, like Belgium, Germany, you know, Netherlands, UK. But yeah, cool band. They had a few albums that were pretty good. Souvlaki's the best one. Interesting. The title of the album is named after it comes from a Jerky Boys skit.
Does it really?
Remember the Jerky Boys?
Of course I do. Yeah.
Yeah. There's you know, it's very Jerky Boys, like they're doing a prank call, and
of course,
and then they're talking to some Greek guy, and then they make, you know, a sex joke about Souvlaki, and that's where
that's where this title came from.
Weird. It doesn't seem to fit in with the vibe, but I guess you gotta call it something.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So where do you think? So we kind of talked about the roots of it too, but then I also thought about where it goes forward to and what happens like after this. But first, I wanted to ask you about dream pops. Now, I hate dream pop. Like I hate it with such passion, but it's not that different. I think what's different besides maybe shoegaze is definitely more intense and has distorted guitars and like I guess more passion to it. I would think. Or maybe that's the way to describe it. Well, what do you think about the differences are between the two? Because I hate dream pop.
Really? Like you hate it, huh? I don't even know. Like who's the quintessential dream pop band?
Is it Cocteau
Twins?
No. No, because I don't consider them that either. I consider them more shoegaze. So who's the band that that's all over Twin Peaks and is beloved by who's the director there? Lynch. Damn. I can picture the woman singing.
Drawing a blank.
Yeah, I can picture the woman singing in my head. She was featured in the show and some other stuff, but I can't stand it. It's just, it's like so straight down the middle in the music like construction that it's hard to listen to, and there's no passion to it. It's like so quiet and nothing that it just drives me insane. But there isn't like a big gap between these two genres, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think they're pretty similar. So do you also hate shoegaze?
I don't hate shoegaze. I mean, it was never one that
I think there's a big overlap between the two genres.
It's a big overlap. Maybe it's just this one artist that
maybe you just don't like that band, right? Rather than,
yeah. But I think Dream Pop is just much quieter. It doesn't have as much, doesn't have distortion, not a lot of passion. You know, might have a lot of the effects, but it's like very subdued comparatively. I think no passion. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of
you put them in the same bucket.
Or I don't know. I just listen, like, I like this band, I like that band. I don't like a genre necessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe that's
there's always going to be good bands and bad bands in any genre. That's true. I guess I don't fully understand or appreciate the subtleties between dream pop and shoegaze. I guess if it's just mellower, dreamier,
I think it's a lot
whatever.
mellower, like no distortion or less distortion. It's a lot it's a lot quieter. And at least in shoegaze, you'll have passionate singers with nice melodies. Like you'll have, you know what I mean? There'll be people who are emoting, whereas in dream pop, it's like really, really subdued. Like there isn't a lot of emoting with the vocalist.
Gotcha.
And it's a lot quieter. And notice my voice came down in decibel level too.
Yes, for dream
I'm getting
pop.
dreamy.
So like a band, like I know this band, Galaxy 500.
I don't know.
You don't like that band? No, they're pretty good. I guess they're called dream pop.
Yeah, maybe I gotta just experience it more. I don't know.
Maybe.
So back to what I said when we began this, I never really pulled on that string because I wasn't a huge. Because by the time I was aware of like who, you know, I would be aware of I was aware of Smashing Pumpkins, right? In the mid 90s, of course, because they had some hits and they were on the radio.
They're huge, yeah.
So, but I didn't love them. I didn't really like them either. I didn't even like them.
Not your band.
I can appreciate them for what they are, and there's a couple songs I dig, but I wouldn't have gone down the path of saying, okay, well, who inspired them? And then
gotcha.
So, because the earlier music from the 70s, I would have been more like classic rock, and then into like southern rock, and then in the 80s, I would have listened to the pop stuff. I wouldn't have gone.
Yep.
I wouldn't have gone. Into the shoegaze stuff. So
right.
Yeah. I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely discovered most of these bands after the fact,
Yeah.
But not too long after the fact. Like some of these bands I remember listening to in the 90s for sure.
Yeah. I did not listen to any of them. I don't know what I was doing, but I missed this
listening
whole genre.
To other stuff.
Wait, what?
I was saying you were listening to other stuff, man. There's so much music out there. You can't listen to all of it.
There's so much music. Should we go on to my number 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
I wonder how you're going to deal with this one, my friend. This is Get On Me by the Brother Kite. I love the big suspended 4 back to the 3 that Pat loves to do. So the Brother Kite is actually it's a friend of ours band. Is
friends of ours, yeah.
and I think if Pat heard me call his band Shoegaze, he'd probably smack me. But
yeah, I mean, they're in the zone. I gotta say, they are on Wikipedia's list of shoegaze bands. I know they are. I was doing my research. Yeah.
This is how I justified me picking this song.
Yeah. Oh, I think it counts.
It also featured on the British television series Skins.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty cool. I'm glad they got some juice. This whole album is awesome.
So good.
Yeah, really good.
So this is our buddy Pat.
I have it on orange vinyl, by the way.
You have it really? I had the CD, but now I just listen to it on Spotify. But I remember when they put this out. So this is 2006. They put 2004.
Yeah, 2006.
They put it out.
Waiting for the time to be right.
It's exactly right. Yeah. And it's, I mean,
it's a great album.
It's a great album. And I just know the meticulousness they put into recording the damn thing.
Yep.
Like it took forever.
Totally.
Pat and the rest of the band, they're very meticulous. They want things to sound, they have to sound right or it's never going to come out. And to me, they did a great job and blew it out of the water. I mean, they just
absolutely
made
this
album
a really
awesome. Amazing record. Yeah. So you can find them on Spotify. It's the Brother Kite. The album is Waiting for the Time to Be Right. And the album that followed this was really great too. I sort of lost track, I think, after that. But the album after this was really because it
Moonlight Race.
Yeah, I think that's the one. That's got some great stuff on there where it starts a lot more toned down with just like some electronic like stuff, and then Pat's nice voice.
Yeah,
but they write great melodies and a lot of harmonies and very dense music. And so when I think shoegaze, I think of Pat.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, I know he's a fan of many of these bands, so.
Makes sense.
And the influence is kind of undeniable, I guess. Like they do some of the techniques, the glide guitar it's called, Kevin Shields from My Bloody Valentine, where he's kind of playing while doing the whammy bar to get it kind of pitch bendy, rather than using like an effect pedal to achieve a similar sort of vibe. But it's a cool, unique sound, and it definitely is a vibe.
Yeah, cool. So anyway, that's my number.
I like it. I'm glad you chose that one.
Thank you. Shall we go on to
that's a good tune. That's a good tune.
That's a great tune. Listen to anybody out there, if you haven't, just listen to the album.
Listen to the whole album. It's awesome. It is good.
Yeah.
Shameless plug for our friend, but I mean he's also in a great band, so
he is. Yeah, it works.
Not really shameless.
Not at all.
Okay. My number 2 is Seagull by Ride.
Never heard that song before.
Really? Have you heard Ride?
I guess I didn't. I haven't.
Wow. Okay. Well, since this is my number 2, I clearly consider them in the top 2 shoegaze bands. This is the track 1 off of their debut album called Nowhere. The song's called Seagull. It rocks. I think the whole album rocks. It's like pretty heavy, not like super heavy, but rocking, loud, cool guitars, like crazy guitar noise, which I always appreciate.
Yeah.
And this album Nowhere is frequently in the top shoegaze albums. It's also one of the great albums of the 90s. I think this is 1990, but they're one of the key pioneers of shoegaze, as it's said. Their first 2 albums, Nowhere, and then the next one was called Going Blank Again. That actually had a hit, quote unquote hit single in the UK, Leave Them All Behind, that went to number 9 on the UK singles chart. That's a great song too. I like this one a little better. It's a little more raw. But once again, another one of these bands that had put out a few albums, really good albums, and then broke up in 96. And their album got negative reviews. I think they were just all set doing it. And then Andy Bell, it's 2 lead guys, Andy Bell and Mark Gardner, they both sing. But Andy Bell ended up joining Oasis and was the bass player for Oasis. So I'm sure he got paid for that. But yeah, Ride ultimately reunited in the 2000 teens, and they put out a couple albums. They put one out this year, actually. I went and saw them actually a few months ago.
Really? How was it?
They're great. They sounded awesome. It was awesome. They sounded great. I mean, they're old, and they joked about how old they are, but they rocked. The guitar sounded great. Their new tunes are pretty good. Still pretty in the it sounds like Ride, you know what I mean? It's just a great band, I think. A lot of cool songs. Like they were trying to write songs that could be popular, I think, too. So, which is a little different than some of the other folks were just doing their thing. But I think Ride really did want to become a big famous band. And, maybe that contributed to why they broke up, because they never quite achieved those heights. I mean, they played huge. They played at like Glastonbury, they played all the big festivals and all the stuff. They were really popular, really big band in the early 90s. But I'm glad they got back together, though, because they are continuing to write. Like, if you like this band, you'll probably like their new album too.
Do they normally have that? So the the vocals in that song were very Alice in Chains, and I mean, I don't know who influenced.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay, the harmonies or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, like the tight, somewhat dissonant harmonies and stuff. Is that characteristic of them? Do they do a lot of that?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, both those guys sing in harmony. Yeah, I think it's just a coincidence if it's got the Alice in Chains, but I don't think they were. I mean, they're contemporary, right?
Right. Yeah, I wasn't saying that they.
Right. No, but it definitely has. I guess I didn't think of it like that. But yeah, they definitely have that important harmony vibe in much of their music.
Yeah. What do you think about hum in terms of shoegaze?
Yeah, I mean, I think that counts.
Yeah. Right. Because I was thinking, so like we were talking about, or I mentioned before, where it came and then the dream pop thing, but then I was also thinking about where it's gone, and I see a direct connection to the hard rockish kind of popular bands of the early to mid 2000s, like Creed, like because I saw a direct, because I was listening to Hum today. Green to me, that song moves right into Higher by Creed. It's like kind of the next generation of dream pop. What do you think about that?
Interesting. Because I don't know what to think about that.
Well, here's my reasoning. Here's my reasoning. It's these like it's like very stacked guitars, or very big kind of soundscape with not a lot of melodic quality. Like so dream pop, it is a wall of sound. It's like a tube of music coming at you with not a lot of guitar. Other music, you might put a guitar line here, a keyboard line here, or something, and put a lot of space in the mix so that you could hear the differentials of each one. Where in shoegaze, it's a very layered music, and so I think they did that with rock and roll right after this kind of fizzled out. So maybe early 2000s to mid 2000s, and I was wondering if bands like, not bands that I mean I don't love Creed. I don't think they're a very good band, or like Nickelback or something. But I think they sound a lot like the shoegaze bands of the generation prior.
Interesting.
You don't think so?
No, I have to do a little homework. I don't know. For me, like Creed is just such a crappy band.
I know.
That,
but like even Bush,
I'm trying to think of it. Bush sound is like
very drony, very drony, like, but heavier music, I would say.
Bush to me is like post grunge. I feel like they kind of sound like Nirvana, but after the fact. So I don't consider them on like the shoegaze end of things at all.
I wonder if it was more of a merge then. You had grunge and you had shoegaze kind of create this baby that was the post grunge, like a lot of those.
I guess I mean they both have noisy guitars, right?
Yeah, right. Noisy layered guitars, and usually not really so much Bush, because Gavin doesn't have a great voice, but a lot of them had melodic. It's sort of melodic, very hard rock, drony, very hard rock that happened.
Okay, I see.
I don't know. Maybe I'm new here to shoegaze, so I'm just trying to make some
I know. I think it's just a different. I think it's a different thing that maybe has some of the same elements, but didn't come from the same place.
Maybe it didn't then.
I don't know.
Either.
It's all just music. I definitely don't see the Creed connection. I'm trying to follow your thread, and I'm not doing a good job.
No worries. It's just me then. So
right on.
Anything else you want to talk about here?
No, I think we covered it with Ride. Moving on to your number 2.
Yeah. So my number 2 is Cherry Colored Funk by the Cocteau Twins. It's a great song.
It is a great song.
Great song. Is that your number 1? Did you choose this?
No, definitely not my number 1.
So you left them off.
I don't.
Your list?
I don't really consider
I like
that.
Them the
they're
most.
like I like them, but I don't think they're a shoegaze band. I think they're before that.
You think they're dream pop?
I guess. I mean, if you've got to call it something. Well, I got to tell you, Matt, if you look on Wikipedia's list of shoegaze bands, they're not on it.
Really?
Yep. No, they're not on the list of shoegaze bands. They're certainly cited as, one of the progenitors or originators, or heavy influences on the people who did do the shoegaze thing later. But I mean, they also, I mean, they predated it, and then also were really, like, this album came out in what, like 91 or something like that.
90.
90, yeah. So I mean, this came out when shoegaze was happening also. So I don't know. I mean, it's all just labels. I think this certainly is fine as in this playlist, but I don't consider them a shoegaze band.
Interesting.
But that's just kind of my opinion, man.
That is your opinion, man. But so can you describe the difference though between their
not
sound
really
and shoegaze sound?
I get, well, okay, there's not really much in the way of distorted guitars on this.
That's
it's
true.
like clean guitars. It is kind of a wall of sound, but it's a little, I don't know, like thin's not really the right word, because it doesn't sound thin, but it's not as heavily layered, I guess, with like distortion walls.
Although she is kind of buried in the mix, though. Again, we're
that's
listening
another
to a
thing,
singer
right?
who's like way down in the mix, like Liz Fraser, who's got a great voice, too.
Totally.
And she's been around doing stuff. I mean, even after this, she was what'd she do? She did what was the she did Teardrop by Massive Attack. That was the one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I still think I hear, which is, there's not a lot of distortion. I think that's the difference. But
I think that's probably the biggest one for me.
But it's still post-punk. It's that time period, because you got My Bloody Valentine right around then too.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw a bunch of lists that they were on for
yeah, no, I know, they're definitely on a lot of the lists, but yeah, and I think it's fine. It's just a judgment call, I guess.
Oh. I think I identify with them more than I identify with most of the other bands.
Yeah.
I really like their melodies and their songs.
They're a great band for sure.
Yeah, so this is Cherry Colored Funk off of Heaven or Las Vegas. I think this is their 6th album, and it actually hit number 99 on the Billboard 200. Like, you wouldn't expect that from some of these bands. 1990, widely regarded as their best, and I like this album. I listened to it today, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they're good.
So Liz Fraser and Robin Guthrie, he's the guitar player. They were in a relationship, and they're the primary songwriters for this band. They broke up in the early 90s, but then continued to do music together until something like 97, and then they broke up. They've gotten together a couple times since then, but they've sort of both gone off and done other projects, like things as I mentioned with Massive Attack or whatever.
Yep.
She's been on a bunch of different albums, like backing up people. And the craziest one, which I didn't know, was she recorded a song with Jeff Buckley. Do you know this one? All Flowers in Time?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard
sorry. It's All Flowers in Time, Bend Towards the Sun is the entire entire song name. It was never released on anything, but it got out, and so you can find it on YouTube. Super pretty song, really pretty song with the two of them. They found each other. He was infatuated with her, and as soon as she found him and his music, she became infatuated with them. They had a pretty passionate love affair for like a year or so, I think. And then just, music stuff and band stuff kind of got in the way of them staying together, and so they kind of lost touch. And
too bad.
weren't in touch, when he died. So,
yep.
But yeah, they had this very passionate affair. And then it led to All Flowers in Time, Bed Towards the Sun. It's a really cool song. I wish they got to. I mean, you could tell it's still a demo, so I wish they would have gotten to do it for real. But pretty song. Listen to it.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, so that's that is my number 2, Cherry Colored Funk, Cocteau Twins.
Good one.
Shall we move on to your top spot? Yeah. Number 1.
My number 1 is Only Shallow by My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love this song. This is a great tune. This is I mean, My Bloody Valentine is kind of the quintessential shoegaze band. This is Only Shallow is the first track off of their album Loveless from 1991. Loveless is a classic album. It's an awesome album. Frequently gets on the lists of, you know, best albums of the 90s, yada yada. It's the ultimate shoegaze album for my money. Kevin Shields on guitar doing his glide guitar thing that we were talking about earlier, with the playing on the whammy bar, and cool recording techniques. Just sounds huge and layered, and it rocks. And they have like the buried vocals, kind of dueling vocals, kind of androgynous, can't tell who's doing what. It's Kevin Shields and Belinda Butcher that's singers, and I guess they did all these crazy studio techniques when they were recording this, and a lot of times they would like pitch his vocal up and pitch hers down.
Oh, really?
So you can't tell who's doing the part that sounds more feminine or whatever.
Right.
Or it could just be all Kevin Shields. Like, he's kind of a crazy person. He went off the deep end, I guess, after Loveless. Like, this album took forever to make. It cost a ton of money, almost bankrupt their record label. The record label guy is not a huge fan of Kevin Shields. It was bad. There's actually a pretty good movie called Beautiful Noise, a documentary about shoegaze. It's worth watching if you're into it. And they kind of follow a few of the band. They do it. There's a segment on Cocteau Twins, segment on Jesus Mary Chain, and then My Bloody Valentine. And then they have interviews with all kinds of people, like all like the guys from Ride and all these other shoegaze bands are in it. But they also interview Billy Corgan and Trent Reznor. Trying to think of who else is in it. But they were two of the more famous people that were interviewed in there talking about all these bands. It's cool. It's worth watching. But yeah, so Kevin Shields talks about some of the stuff he was doing on this, and like weird stuff. They didn't make a lot of friends when they were in the studio because they were trying to do weird things like that. That lead line in that Only Shallow song, that kind of high thing, is a pretty simple technique, which is weird. I guess he put two guitar amps facing each other, and each of them had tremolo on, but the tremolos were set at different speeds.
Oh yeah.
So, and then they put a mic in between the two amps, so it's just this kind of like wavering,
very
warbly,
washy.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a great sound. I think this album, Loveless, I love it. I think it's a great album. I haven't listened to it. I listened to it earlier today, but hadn't listened to it in a while. I think it holds up. It's just a cool, really interesting album. Many of the songs. This one has live drums. The drummer had some ailments while they were working on this. I guess he was unable to play for whatever reason, so he only played drums live on a couple tracks. This is one of them, but they sampled him, and so then a lot of the drums are his performance, but sampled and sequenced by presumably Kevin Shields.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean, you do what you got to do.
Totally. But yeah, this guy was a notorious perfectionist. It took him forever to do anything. I think he played almost everything on the album because whoever else wouldn't get his vibe.
Got it.
You know,
cool. Yeah, that's a good one. I listened to a bit of the album today too, because like I said,
I think it's a great album.
They were definitely listed all over the place as
totally
top shoegaze. So yeah, I check it.
Yeah, I mean it's number one on pretty much every shoegaze top album list. Loveless is.
Yep. Yeah. Nice one.
Yeah.
Go to my number one.
We got to go to your number one. Yeah. Cream what is it? Hit me with it.
The Crop. This is Cherub Rock, of course, by the Smashing Pumpkins. Yeah, so like I said, I missed, some of the Smashing Pumpkin stuff. I mean, I knew the hits. Like, I knew the stuff that was played on the radio. And, like, our friends would love them and play music. So I would hear them around. But I don't think I ever bought any of their albums. But this is a great one.
Too bad.
I know.
This is their best album, I think.
You think so? You don't like Melancholy, the one after this more?
Nah.
You like this one? Yeah. Okay.
For sure. This is my jam. Sounds awesome. This song rules, too. I love Cherub Rock. It's a great song.
Yeah, it's a great song. There's a lot of good stuff on here. Today, Disarm,
Totally. The whole album is great, front to back. Mayonnaise, that's a good tune.
can't remember. Sometimes their names I don't recognize the song by the name because some they do the Zeppelin thing too, where the name titles are odd. Sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah,
yeah, right. So I don't remember all of them, but like, do they say disarm and disarm?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
do?
It's like the first line, right? Disarm you with a smile.
Oh, it's disarm you with a smile.
Yeah.
You know what? I always kind of thought he said stab you with a smile.
Oh, maybe he says that later.
Maybe he does. Yeah, anyway, but this is a great one. And if I compare him to the other, if I compare him to the other shoegaze bands that came up for me, I have to say that I like, and you probably wouldn't consider them a shoegaze band, but their shoegaze songs, I think I like them more than most of the other bands that came up for me. Yeah.
They have long songs with extended instrumental parts with crazy layered guitars and kind of dreamy ethereal vocals a lot of times.
Yeah.
But it's Billy Corgan's weird voice too, which I don't mind. He's a super weird voice. He's an awesome guitar player. I mean, he's kind of a tool, I guess, but he's a great guitar player.
Great guitar
player. A lot of people hate on that guy, but he's pretty funny too. If you hear any interviews with him, he's like just a really snarky, sarcastic guy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
this album rules. He's conservative. Like, he puts himself conservative. Like, I don't know that because I've heard some of those interviews too, and I feel like he hasn't necessarily thought all of his positions all the way through.
Gotcha.
But he is. I think his heart's in the right place, and but the music industry is not conservative by nature, so of course they hate it.
Fair enough.
You know? But no, super smart guy, very good musician, great writer, great guitar player, and actually the solo on this one. I mean, you mentioned guitar technique. Recording technique.
Guitar solo on this is awesome.
It's super cool, and they recorded it an interesting way too. He split his signal, put it into two different amps, and put it onto two different tapes, and then took one of them and just messed with the time a little bit, like made it a little bit faster, a little bit slower. So it's very phasey and a little bit like out of tune. Really cool effect.
Well, that's the origin of the phaser effect, right? Like that's how people used to do it.
Is that how they did it? That makes sense.
Yeah. You touched one of the reels on the tape reel and it would slow it down very slightly. Like people would do it in the studio manually, and it makes that crazy sort of sound. Yeah, I figured you just did it with a pedal. I didn't realize it was old school. It's cool. It sounds awesome.
Does sound awesome. But yeah, this is a good one. I don't know. I think probably I think I liked growing up. I liked Melancholy and the Ultimate Sadness better than Siamese Dream, but it's maybe because it has 1979, which is my favorite by them. I love that song a lot. Like, and that's very different than, I know it's very different than this, and very, you know what I mean. And maybe that's why I like it. It's a kind of an anomaly for them, that song. But I love that song. I think that's their best one. And
Cherub, I think for me is probably my favorite. It's probably my favorite Smashing Pumpkins song. Yeah.
It's a great song, and that 1979 is in shoegaze, so I wouldn't, know enough of that I knew enough not to put that on the list.
Yeah, that's just like a pop song, right?
But yeah, but do you put them in that genre or no?
Not really. But I think a lot of people do, and it's certainly like adjacent and overlapped with a lot of that stuff. But and they would go on tour with a lot of these bands like Swervedriver and whoever else.
It was that time period, I mean.
Yep, totally. I don't know. I feel like they're more rock and roll, like arena rock, like big arena rock kind of vibes, but from an indie perspective. I don't know if that makes sense.
It sounds contradictory.
And then I mean, but I mean, they ultimately did go on to play arenas and big rock sound. Yeah. But I don't know. I think they're great. I mean, once again, it's just labels. You could call them a shoegaze band. You could call this a shoegaze song. It doesn't bother me. It's a great song. I know that much.
Yeah. I wonder how many albums they sold. I was looking for that before, but I guess I would sort of imagine somewhere around 30 million. That would be my guess based on how big a couple of the albums were.
Yeah.
But then they kind of hit their heights in the mid 90s, and then it sort of trailed off after that. And they've still been recording. I know they split and got back together, and actually I think Darcy's still gone, but
I think she's not coming back either.
Yeah. But
what'd you say? You say 30 million albums?
That would be my guess.
That's right. That's what it said. I just looked it up. 30 million albums sold worldwide.
That's that they sound like a 30, right? Because if they had like two more, if they had like another 3 or maybe 5 years of fame, they probably would have doubled it. But they
like Melancholy was a huge album.
It was.
Siamese Dream was a big album, but I think they sold more later. They had a couple of I don't know if it's a flop, but things that were like less popular, like that Adore album. Do you remember that one at all?
Yeah.
Um,
I was looking at some of their albums today and like checking the stream count on some of these albums, and some of the songs had like 7,000 streams. I'm like, what is
weird.
This? Yeah, well, they've got like these real deep cuts. Sometimes they'll release
double
I
or
see. Triple albums with like 30, 40 songs on it. And some of the deeper cuts, you're like, this only has 7,500.
Enough, yeah.
It's like, wow.
Weird.
Jeez.
Well, they definitely had some mega hits.
Huge.
I don't think Cherub Rock wasn't a really big hit for them.
So
what was the big hit? Disarm and Today, I think, were bigger hits off a Siamese Dream.
Right. And but none of them were charted on the Hot 100 though. So they were all alternative charts or like mainstream rock charts. And I think
it was all heavily featured on MTV.
Absolutely. That's what I didn't understand. Like that's what I was surprised that it didn't hit a Hot 100.
Right.
But I just looked at them today. So maybe Disarm did, because that was, that could be
right.
That could transfer over sonically to basically any, any channel, but any channel. But let's look at Disarm right now, and I'll just see where it charted. No, this has got alternative. This actually was their highest one. So on the alternative airplay, Disarm got to 8, and on the mainstream rock it got to 5. But it did not. It hit radio songs, but it did not hit the Hot 100. That was a big song, though. I felt.
Yeah, I think also though, like, what was the? This is people just bought the album anyways,
I guess so. Yeah.
And I mean, Siamese Dream was number 10 on the Billboard 200, the album chart. So
yeah,
it was a big album. It just didn't get a lot of radio airplay, I guess, in mainstream.
Yeah, let's see. It looks like it says 4 million copies sold in the United States. Didn't do as well abroad. Like, I don't see it hitting. It didn't hit. United Kingdom only sold like 100,000. 400,000 in Canada. So yeah, maybe it's a 4.5 million or something is what that's sold. But that's a big album. But and then I imagine that Melancholy and the Ultimate Sadness did even better.
Must have sold more. Yeah.
It's this Pisces one.
Pisces Iscariot, is that one? Was like B-sides and covers and stuff.
They did a couple of those before they got to Melancholy.
Yeah.
Here, let me just look at what they did in terms of, because that chart. Okay, that hit the number 1 on the Billboard 200 album 200.
Okay,
and
that makes sense.
The sales were more like 7 or 8 million worldwide, because you had 5 million in the United States, 1 million in Canada, and then hundreds of thousands elsewhere, including like France, United Kingdom. So it's like 7 or 8 million. Yeah. So that was their big one, which got to
certified diamond.
Okay, so that's 10 million then.
Yeah.
That's not what Wiki says, but it's probably missing some. But that's or at least down in the numbers below. But whatever, I don't know. I believe it. So 10 million. So it probably doubled what Siamese Dream did, and that both of those together accounted for half their album sales. But that's big. Cool. I mean, you sell 10 million, 15 million copies in 4 or 5 years. Like it's
huge.
That's big. Yeah, I know.
For sure.
Cool. Anyway, so that's my number 1. And
good one. It's a great song.
I had a little bit of an eclectic list.
Yeah. I tried to keep it down the middle.
Thank you. We won't announce it now, but I have the next playlist picked out. So I'll tell you off air, but
cool.
It's going to be a little bit more in my wheelhouse than say this one.
Right on.
I was like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else
did you have it?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, there's just a few other bands that are kind of, probably should get mentioned at least, like bands like Lush, Chapter House, Catherine Wheel, Curve. And that's most of the classic shoegaze or shoegaze related bands. But then, super influential on bands to come.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, I think it has a lot to do with the bands that they were influenced by as well. Like, sort of people who like the Velvet Underground are going to play a certain way, I think.
Potentially, for sure.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. I didn't really, I had a few other, I think the ones that I knew of were the ones that you mentioned in your list, or the ones that I mentioned on my list. So I probably know 10 bands.
I mean, there's like really not all that many,
Yeah.
what did they call it? There's a someone gave him the tagline, the Shoegaze tagline, the scene that celebrates itself. I guess like all these people, they were all like friends and they would all go to each other's shows, and it was like not as antagonistic as a lot of music scenes, and it was really like not a sexist scene either. There's a lot of like female bands, and a lot of times like female bands would get kind of pushed out or thought of as less than or whatever. So it seems like it was a pretty altruistic, friendly vibe, and they were all into each other, which is cool.
I mean, it was kind of like trip hop.
Didn't last
was
that
the
long.
Same way.
Yeah,
Trip-hop,
sure.
You know, a kind of a close knit group of bands who would all work on each other's stuff and be in the same scene. Yeah. So. Yep. All right. Well, that's been Shoegaze. Anything else? Shoegaze. Anything else we need to talk about?
No, I think we covered it.
All right. Then okay. Then that's been Ultimate Playlist, and we will see you next Saturday, where we construct another one. I'll see you later.
Yeah.